project on the bench. We've got a 2011 F150 four-door that has the two-piece drive shaft, and when the customer comes to, I don't want to call it a hard stop, but a more aggressive stop than normal. Usually whenever you're stopping, your front of your truck is kind of going up, or it's going down in the rear, the truck is traveling in the upwards position, and whenever you come to your stop, the suspension settles, but the rear end is still loaded. And what happens, there's a spline shaft in this two-piece drive shaft that the grease gets kind of worn out and washed out and dried out. What's happening is whenever that rear end is loaded and it's not slipping inside of that spline anymore like it should, it creates a audible, and you can feel it in the seat of your pants, kind of a pop. And it's very common on Fords and GMs and some of the Toyotas with the two-piece drive shaft. So let's get underneath of this truck. I've already got it up on the jack stands, and let me show you what you got to do to lube this shaft. It's got the 5-liter V8 engine, and we're going to service this engine while we have it. The change oil soon light is on, so we're going to go ahead and change the oil. The first thing that you want to check is the carrier bearing, and this is the transmission down here, and it's got a half shaft and another U-joint here, and it comes down to this boot with a slip joint right here. But if you look, you want to make sure this is not completely gone. It's going to have some play. This carrier bearing is not gone out completely, but it's on its way out. But this is not going to cause that slip bump feel that you feel in the seat of your pants whenever you're braking or taking off. So what basically happens is when this rear end is loading up and is putting pressure on this drive shaft and it's wanting to push this away, and it can't because the spline, the grease and everything is dried out and probably maybe a little rust in there. So what we're going to do, we're going to disconnect the drive shaft from the rear end. We're going to mark our yoke, or yeah, it's just the pinion flange assembly to the yoke, and mark that so you'll be able to put it back where it came from. Just take you a pair of needle nose and spread your clamp open enough to just slide it back and just let it dangle here on the shaft. Alright, got that part done, easy peasy. So let's make our way back here to the differential, and let's start removing these 4 nuts, bolts. An impact wrench with a short, just a swivel extension will just about be your best friend here. So I've got all the bolts out except for one, and I'm going to leave it in there just to catch the drive shaft when I pop it loose. You don't want to hit here or here. You want to hit this yoke solid. See how it popped loose? So we'll just go ahead and rotate this around and remove that last bolt, and we'll get this drive shaft out of here. Carefully lower the drive shaft to the ground and just let it sit there. And we're going to slide this spline shaft backwards. And it's going in and out, but it's really stiff. It's got some grease on it, you can tell, but It's dry as a bone. And this is our culprit. It needs to be lubricated. I'm going to be using the Super Lube. It's the synthetic grease with Teflon, and you can get this anywhere. I think I bought this at Harbor Freight. Just run you a bead in several spots, and then just take your finger, and we're going to fill all the splines up with this stuff. If you buy the Ford grease, it's the same stuff. Wipe some in here on the female portion. You can actually take a toothbrush and get down in there real good with this stuff, with this grease. Alrighty guys, we got our male portion of our drive shaft lubed up and our female portions lubed up, so let's just go ahead and slide them back together. Be patient whenever you stab this drive shaft in. The tolerances are so close that the grease is actually making a seal in the splines here, so you'll have to burp this. So not much. Slip your boot back on, line up your score marks, and go ahead and tap the yoke back onto the pinion flange. Alright guys, we're going to torque our drive shaft bolts to 80 foot-pounds. That's good. Alrighty guys, we've got the hose clamp put back on, and we've got the bolts torqued down to where they need to be, and let's get this thing down off the jack stands and go for a test drive and see if we got rid of any of this slip bump that's been plaguing these Fords for a long time. Alrighty, we got the oil change finished up on the F150, and let's go for a test ride. We got to bring it back home anyway, so y'all can come with me. Alrighty guys, I'm gonna make a little bit of a stop, make sure there's nobody behind me. Alright, no pop. When that rear end settled down is when it would do it the most. Now if you just make a real light stop, say you're moving up through traffic and you inch up and you inch up, well, you're unloading that rear end, and whenever you take off is when it would make the bump again. So let's try it. Alright, no bump. We may be onto something here. Another stop here. All right. I'm going to come to a stop here, and I'm going to accelerate semi-hard. So far, so good. Well, we got the old Ford delivered back, and I'm back in my old Ford and headed back to the La Casa. Hope everybody had a good weekend and a good Martin Luther King Jr.'s Day. We'll catch you guys on the next one. More Medic 1. Have a great day.